So today I'm going to be going through habits that are keeping you poor in Greenville, and a lot of these things are things that people don't even realize that they do. So today I'm going to be pointing out some of them for those of you guys who don't know, and hopefully this will help you all grind money better and hopefully earn money faster. Anyway, so before we get into today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe as we are on the road to 21.8k subscribers. Thank you guys so much for the amazing support as of recent. Honestly, it's so great to see, and I just can't thank you guys enough, honestly. And for those of you guys who would like to join my Discord server, that is in the description below as always. For those of you guys who would like to stay up to date with all my future content and all of Greenville and Southwest Florida's update information. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Okay, so the first one here is a pretty obvious one, but it's one that a lot of people still do, and that is constantly buying vehicles. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, it is cool buying new cars in Greenville, and it's definitely probably one of the best parts of the game, but a lot of people do it in a way that just isn't very financially responsible, you know, and it does get to the point where you do eventually start buying too many cars, and it leads you to eventually have no money, and it means that you're always going to have to be grinding 24/7. Now, obviously, for those of you guys who do play the game a lot, this isn't really going to be that much of an issue whatsoever, since, you know, you are probably getting a lot of money from how much you actually play. But for those who only occasionally play, it probably isn't really the smartest idea to be buying a bunch of cars like this, as, you know, you'll pretty much be left with no money at the end, and you won't really be getting much money after that as well, so it'll be a very hard time grinding it back. Now, that sort of leads me into my next point, which is buying and selling cars right after getting them. And once again, this is a huge thing that a lot of people do and don't even realize it. And for those of you guys who might be slightly newer to the game, you might think that this isn't really an issue, since you might think that you can just buy cars and then, you know, sell them quickly if you don't end up liking them, as, you know, nothing wrong with that. But the issue is that you only actually get a certain percent back when you sell a vehicle. So for example, with the 2020 Falcon Heritage, aka the carbon fiber Ford GT, brand new, this thing will cost you $750,000, which isn't really any amount to shy away from. But if I were to sell this thing after buying it, I would only make $668,000 back, which isn't really far off $100,000 less. And the more expensive the vehicle gets, the more big this difference will more or less be. And that's why it's such an issue if you are buying cars constantly and then selling them right after buying them all the time, as you'll notice that very quickly you're probably going to end up losing millions of dollars, especially if you are buying those higher end vehicles. Now, obviously, if you have the money to spare, this isn't really an issue once again, but for most people, it isn't really going to help you at all, and it's going to make things like grinding a lot more tedious, since even though you could be earning a lot of money, if you're just spending it straight away and then selling the cars that you buy with your money, then you're not really going to notice any actual gain, and it's just going to, yeah, not turn out too good for you. So my best advice is make sure to do research before you buy vehicles. I mean, there are hundreds of great car reviews out there on YouTube in regards to Greenville, so, you know, before buying a vehicle, I would highly recommend checking those out, because it can save you so much time worth of grinding and so much money in general, in case you don't end up liking the vehicle and you want to sell it straight away. I do wish, however, that Greenville had some sort of like vehicle testing system where, for example, you could like rent out a vehicle for a cheaper price for a certain amount of time. For example, let's say like rent out a vehicle for $10,000 for 30 minutes and then give it a test drive before you actually decide to buy it. And, you know, they could easily implement a bunch of different systems as well to prevent people from abusing it. For example, only being able to test out, you know, one vehicle every few hours, for example. But, you know, either way, this would save a ton of money for people. But, you know, this has been a feature that has been recommended for years now, and sadly, I honestly don't expect it to come anytime soon, if at all. So, yeah, watching car reviews is pretty much the next best thing that you can do. Now, the next one here is one that comes off as being very small, but it's actually quite big in the grand scheme of things. And this is spending a bunch of money on rims and plates. So at the DMV here, for those of you guys who don't know, you can actually buy new plates and new plate frames. And it's actually crazy because plates used to cost like $10,000 to replace. Now I think they only cost like maybe $3,000 or something like that, maybe a little bit more. I can't exactly remember. They do cost a lot less nowadays compared to how they used to cost. Same as rims, I'm pretty sure, but they do still cost a lot of money. And just checking for rims right here, yeah, they literally cost like anywhere from like 1.5k, I think, up to like over 10k, which is absolutely crazy. And even changing your vehicle's suspension can cost you like upwards of like $5,000, I think, maybe even more, honestly, depends, I think. Either way though, crazy amounts of money here. And even if you're just modding out a single vehicle in regards to the plate frame, the rims, and the suspension, most people have more than one car, and most people want to modify more than one car. So I mean, you can definitely imagine how expensive it can get, especially for those people who do have a lot of cars. And, you know, you could easily see yourself spending hundreds of thousands of dollars from modding all the vehicles in your inventory. And obviously, once again, modding your vehicles is cool, but if you do like to frequently buy vehicles, or you don't really like to stick with the same vehicles all the time, then, you know, it would probably be best to just mod the vehicles specifically that you actually drive all the time and do want to keep. And then as for the ones that you don't use, honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. The next one here is buying expensive vehicles without getting daily reward discounts. So for those of you guys who might be new to the game, with the daily reward system, which actually shows up every single day when when you first log in, there is actually a slight chance that you can get a vehicle discount, and I'm pretty sure this goes all the way up to around 20%, which is quite a significant amount of money taken off, and can literally save you so much money in regards to buying vehicles, and can save you straight up hours of grinding. But the thing is that a lot of people out there don't really bother waiting to get these discounts, which I guess is valid since it is relatively rare to get, especially like the 20% discount, or at least whatever the highest amount of discount is. But the thing is that it'll save you so much money in the grand scheme of things, and if you do want to maximize your profit on everything, then that's definitely the best bet in my opinion, and that would definitely be my number one advice for those of you guys who are trying to get a lot of money fast while still being able to buy these expensive cars. And it'll also just allow you to buy more expensive cars in general than you usually would be able to, without having to grind anywhere near the same amount of time that you would normally need to grind for it. Next up here is buying vehicles that you wouldn't use in roleplay servers. Now this one doesn't really apply to everyone since not everyone does play roleplay servers, and there are a lot of people who purely just play the game for the vehicles. But for those of you guys who roleplay quite a lot, you know, buying vehicles like the Tesla Roadster for example probably wouldn't be the most smart financial decision, since pretty much every roleplay server under the sun does not let you drive vehicles like this, or even like basic sports cars and whatnot. You know, a lot of them are sadly banned, and obviously if you have like banned vehicle exempt for example, you can drive some more of them, but in all honesty it's not really worth it, to be honest, if you mainly just play roleplay servers, because then you're going to be left with a huge hole in your bank first of all, and you're also going to be left with a bunch of vehicles that you can't even drive, and they're pretty much just going to be in your inventory for show. So I mean, if you only really play roleplay servers, honestly just buy cars that you can drive in them, instead of spending a bunch of money on vehicles that you know that you'll never be able to drive anyways, since you know at that point it's just not even really worth it. This next one kind of ties into that, as this is actually buying cars that you won't use, as you know, a lot of the time people who buy cars that they won't use will either end up selling them right after buying them, which was like the point that I made earlier, or they'll just end up never driving them, completely forgetting about them, and the vehicles will just sit there rotting away in their inventories forever, and it's honestly just a waste of whatever amount of money you spent on them. Obviously if it is a cheaper vehicle then it doesn't matter as much, but if it's a more expensive vehicle then you know that's where it can become an issue, since you know there's just all that money that you could be using on other vehicles instead just sitting in your inventory doing nothing. And now for the last one, which is actually using outdated grinding methods. Now as the years have went on, Greenville grinding methods have changed quite significantly, going from driving around the map to, you know, doing interactive jobs and etc, etc. Like there are a lot of different grinding methods out there that are all pretty efficient in their own ways, but you know, with recent grinding methods, especially such as the dealership method, which I made a video on by the way in the past, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already. You know, there are so much better grinding methods now compared to just, for example, driving around the map at like 60 miles per hour. And you know, although these methods aren't really bad compared to some of these newer methods, they aren't really anywhere near as efficient and don't get you money anywhere near as fast. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Once again, if you guys did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, so we are on the road to 21.8k subscribers, so it would be greatly appreciated as always. And for those of you guys who would like to join my Discord server to stay up to date with all my future content and all of Greenville and Southwest Florida's update information, that is in the description below. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, let me know in the comments below, and let me know if you guys do any of these things, and if you don't, what precautions you take to stay rich in Greenville. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.